I'm here at Telemanagement Forum's Management World Africa with Dobak, who's the Director of Africa Analysis. Dobak, thanks for being with us today, and I'd like to ask you a few questions. Firstly, what do you see as the most important trend in the evolving communication services arena in Africa?
Thank you very much for the invitation. I think the trend is moving away from voice services towards value-added services. Having said that, voice is still going to be the killer application for quite a few years to come, and it also depends on geographic markets, level of penetration, disposable income levels, and the needs of the end users in those markets. But we are moving towards managed data network services, for instance, even things such as hosting, both from a fixed line perspective, the fixed line operators as well as mobile operators moving into traditionally fixed line type environments with provision of these services.
So how will the changes you see happening impact the way the next generation of information, communication and even entertainment services being designed, created and delivered for this market?
I think there are two aspects to it. One is there is a strong push within African markets towards future generation of content locally, content generated by Africans for Africans. At the moment we access content primarily from other global destinations, developed market destinations. Second one is as markets evolve and the appetite along with the spending power of the consumers and the business sector increases, we are going to see a lot more movement into a so-called triple play, quadruple play type services, including also social networking applications, particularly in the consumer space.
So how will this new era of mobile communications take a fundamental role in not just the communications infrastructure, but also the social and economic future of the African region?
On the economic front, we are beginning to witness the mobile operator becoming more of an aggregator of other services to people who previously had very little access or no access to such services. And they're not necessarily communications related. It would be financial services, for instance, banking or insurance, funeral insurance, things of that nature. Also, ability to use mobile communications networks to do job searches, for instance, deliver social responsibility by governments, social responsibility type applications, could be drug monitoring and administration, for instance. And also on the social side, we see, as mentioned, quite a bit of social networking taking root, following global trends that have been panning out, particularly among the youth moving into the sort of early 20 type age bracket.
In an earlier panel discussion that you were on, you mentioned there were issues of wireless spectrum or the lack of it in the African market. Could you just expand on that for me?
Certainly. I think dearth of WiMAX spectrum is a global phenomenon. We also witness that here in Africa, and that's mostly because a lot of WiMAX spectrum has been allocated previously, historically, to entities such as national TV, radio signal distributors, the military, security forces, for instance. Now there's other use for that spectrum that can be exploited, and we are seeing countries such as Nigeria, regulatory authority there going through an audit process at the moment to see where the spectrum is, who's using it, who's not using it. If someone is not using the spectrum, they would then repossess that spectrum and auction it off to people who can make use of it.
Lastly, and more importantly for us, how do you value an organisation of the size and global breadth of the TM Forum bringing to the communications industry in Africa?
I think Africa does lack, to an extent, fora that bring together local operators and also provide them with exposure to global trends. I think TM Forum specifically would be able to facilitate exchange of information, provision of information from outside of Africa to operators who don't necessarily have that information locally, that knowledge, for things such as best practices and benchmarking, for instance, and also provide a forum or a platform for operators to probably, as a community, operating community in Africa, begin to lobby with regulatory authorities and cooperate with them, I think, to structure a better operating environment in the future.
Dobak, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.